All right, Shalom, Kohalayim La, Yahweh, Bahashim, Yahweh Bahashim, Rakakwadash. Double honor to the apostles and elders of Great Millstone. Peace and salutations to the Akim Wakwaf that scattered abroad the four corners of the earth. And Shalom to the hopeful elect. Shalom. And today's lesson is entitled The Resurrecting of Rome, Iconoclasm, and various topics. All right. And through the spirit and power of Yahweh Bahashim Yahushai, was going into Revelation, the 13th chapter. You know, that specific chapter has been in my mind lately. And, really, I was going to go through the whole chapter and try to, study it, go over it, so my mind can be sharp, on these scriptures, because as the scripture says, study to show thyself approved. But what really stuck out to me was the first three verses, going into the 7 heads and the 10 horns, and mainly the third verse where it was going into, that deadly wound being healed. And, Lord's will, we're going to go into that. But before I get, to Revelation, the 13th chapter, I want to get a few definitions, all right? So first definition I got is resurrect, all right? And it says to raise from the dead or the grave, reanimate, restore to life. And that's what happened during the Renaissance period, all right, which we're going to get that definition as well. The ancient Roman Empire, which fell, was restored to life, after 1,000 years, all right? Because after, that ancient Roman Empire fell, Jake was ruling, all right? And, Esau couldn't deceive the world, until that time period was fulfilled. Again, I want to let the precept speak for itself. I want to get that definition for iconoclasm. That's iconoclast. I want to get iconoclasm. All right. Iconoclasm, it says in reference to an act of breaking or destroying idols physically. All right. So now I want to get iconoclasm. All right. And that word icon itself means image. Just like if you go into Revelation, the 13th chapter, verse 15, where it says image, as you see right there, it says late Greek, and it has the same word icon. All right. But iconoclast means breaker or destroyer of images. Okay. And then late Greek, iconoclast, icon, which means image, and class breaker. So image breaker. All right. And that's what Esau did during the time of the Renaissance. He covered the images of, Jake, to hide the simple fact that Jake was ruling, and that, really, Jake, these so-called Negroes, Latinos, and Native Americans are really the true people of the Lord. And, Esau wanted to deceive the whole world by pinning himself as the Most High and Yahushai, and, the angels being white, so on and so forth. That Esau through, man, but let me get that precept. Job. Okay. This is Job 9, verse 24. Okay. And it says, the earth is given into the hand of the wicked. All right. And who's giving them this power? Yahweh Bahashim Yahushai gave Esau Edom this power to have control over the world. And that's who's currently ruling today. All right. Which goes to show that, you know, the Edomites are not done away with. And that, we're in America, we're living in Rome all over again. Spiritual Sodom, spiritual Egypt, you name it. The spirits that are from back then are currently here today. All right. It says the earth is given into the hand of the wicked. He covereth the faces of the judges thereof. If not, where and who is he? So if it isn't Esau Edom, the so-called white man that done this act, who else is it? All right. It clearly identifies right here who the wicked is. If you go to Malachi 1, verse 4, the border of wickedness, that whole, first 4 verses identifies who the wicked is, who the Lord loves and who the Lord hates. All right. So, and the Renaissance period, that's not the first time that Esau has tried to manage to do that. All right. If you go to right, Khan, you go to First Maccabees, right? The 3rd chapter. This is during the time of the Greeks, all right, because you have 4 major beasts, all right, and out of those 4 beasts, you had 2 beasts, the 3rd and the 4th one, which was the Greeks and the Romans, which were both Edomites that were ruling, okay, which Lord's will in a second. I'm gonna get Daniel the 4th chapter, but trying to find a good place. I'll start at verse 46. It says, wherefore the Israelites, all right, which is you so-called Negroes, Latinos, and Native Americans, assembled themselves together and came to Mashpha over against Jerusalem, for in Mashpha was the place where they prayed afore in Israel. Then they fasted that day and put on sackcloth and cast ashes upon their heads and rent their clothes. Here's the point. And laid open the book of the law, wherein the heathen has sought to paint the likeness of their images. Now, who's the heathen? All right. That's starting with Esau Edom, the so-called white man, and these other nations. All right. You go to Psalms, the 83rd chapter. It lists our different enemies. The Edomites, the Ishmaelites, who else? The Philistines, all right, the Ammonites, the what else? The Moabites, so on and so forth. But in this case, this is the Greek kingdom. So this is talking about Esau Edom, the so-called white man. All right. So this goes to show and prove that the Renaissance period is not the only time that they tried to or managed to do that. All right. So lucky I'm all over the place, but you cancel that out. Let's go to Daniel real quick. And then get an article, read that real quick and, see where the spirit goes. This is Daniel chapter 7, verse 1. And then I'm going to jump down. It says, in the first year of Belshazzar, king of Babylon, Daniel had a dream and visions of his head upon his bed. Then he wrote the dream and told us some other matters. Now, this particular chapter is going into the vision that Daniel received from the Lord Yahweh Bahashim Yahushai. And that's how the Lord speaks to his servants, the prophets. All right. The Lord speaks to you through dreams and visions. if the Lord is dealing with you on that type of level. All right, if you go back to Numbers, the 12th chapter, where it was going into that account, with Moses, Miriam, and Aaron, high priest Aaron, the Lord was, um, the Lord was speaking to Aaron and Miriam, saying, like, I speak to a prophet, through a dream and vision, but my servant Moses, I will not speak in dark speeches and parables, roughly paraphrasing. But, the point is, Daniel received a vision from the Lord, and, this vision is going into the four beasts, which are four different kingdoms. Read verse 3 real quick. It says, and the four great beasts came up from the sea, diverse one from another. Verse 17, these great beasts, which are four kings, which shall rise out of the earth. So these are the four major kingdoms that will be ruling upon the earth. And then after these four kingdoms, the kingdom of the Most High will be established on earth forever in righteousness. All right, the saints, being the Israelites, will be in rulership under Yahweh Bahashim Yahushai, of course. Now, this is verse 7. After this, I saw in the night visions, and behold, a fourth beast, dreadful and terrible, and strong exceedingly, and it had great iron teeth. Going back to Daniel, the 2nd chapter, where it was going into that statue. All right. This is talking about the Roman Empire. All right. The iron portion. All right. And it says, and it devoured and brake in pieces, and stamped the residue with the feet of it, and it was diverse from all the beasts that were before it. So what made this particular kingdom diverse from all the kingdoms before it was the simple fact that these previous kingdoms had a succession line where if the king died, the son of the king would, take the king's stead, and the son would become king. But in this particular case, the Roman Empire, if you go to First Maccabees, the 8th chapter, it talks about, Rome and the Romans having a Senate house and having a emperor, one man ruling, for a certain period of time. And that's today in America, where you have the president and I want to say 320 members in the Senate house, if I'm not mistaken. I could be wrong. The Senate house and what else? Back then, the Romans, they had a Roman Republic, which correlates today to having a checks and balances. All right, the legislative, the executive, and the judicial branch, which is in place to keep from one class or one man gaining too much power. Basically, they don't want to have a monarchy. All right, and these different kingdoms before had a monarchy, which monarchy means one rule. All right. Salakia, I was babbling too much, but it says, and it had 10 horns. All right, and that's talking about the European Union, the EU. Okay. It says, I considered the horns. Behold, there came up among them another little horn, which is talking about America. Okay. And this little horn is different from the one that's in Daniel, the 8th chapter. Salakia. And it says, before whom there were 3 of the first horns plucked up by the roots, dealing with the French, the Spanish, and I want to say the British, if I'm not mistaken. And it says, and behold, in this horn were eyes like the eyes of man, and a mouth speaking great things. All right, so this is talking about the Roman Empire. Okay. Verse 9, I'm gonna come back to that, Lord's will, for a few maybe color scriptures, because part of the lesson is going into iconoclasm, which we broke down what that definition means. It means, um, well, iconoclast means image breaker. Okay. Let me see. I could scroll back down. Verse 17 again, we already read it, but it's all good. It says these great beasts, which we covered that, the great beasts are four kings which shall rise out of the earth, are the Assyrian Babylonians, the Medio Persians, the Greeks, and the Romans. Okay. And we're currently in the second leg of the Roman Empire, all right, which has been restored, all right, because the ancient Roman Empire fell, but it came back into power after 1,000 years, which Lord's will, we get that soon. It says, but the saints of the Most High shall take the kingdom and possess the kingdom forever, even forever and ever. And this is a future prophecy. All right. It hasn't happened because, you have to, there's basically still more prophecies that have to come to pass. All right. The MOTB, World War III, that's why we're still here, you know. Let me see, man. Trying to think, do I want to give Revelation? I'll grab Revelation 13 in a brief second. All right, All right, this is a Renaissance article, real quick. As you see, the Sistine Chapel, you see Adam and the Most High painted, white or what, I'm gonna get back to that in a brief second. That's why I want to grab these color scriptures in a brief second. But it says the Renaissance was a fervent period of European culture, artistic, political, and economic rebirth. All right, following the Middle Ages, and that's what that word Renaissance means, rebirth. Okay, I thought I had the definition. Renaissance, great period of revival of classic-based art and learning in Europe that begin in the 14th century. All right, which is the beginning of the 13 hundreds. And it says from old French Renaissance, literally rebirth. Okay, and that's what it means. All right. Going back, generally described as taking place from the 14th century to the 17th century. The Renaissance promoted the rediscovery of classical philosophy, literature, and art. Some of the great thinkers, authors, statesmen, scientists, and artists in human history thrived during this era, while global exploration opened up new lands and cultures to European commerce. The Renaissance is credited with bridging the gap between the Middle Ages and the modern day civilization. Okay. I'm only going to be reading a little bit of this, but it says from darkness to light, the Renaissance begins. During the Middle Ages, a period that took place between the fall of ancient Rome in 476 AD, which is false. All right. The Roman Empire fell way before that. I want to say about 325 AD, around that time. All right. And if you add 1,000 years to that, really, the Renaissance period didn't exactly start at 1300s, probably around like 1325, 1350. That's when, things really was, escalating and, so on and so forth, did a little bit of studying. And it says in the beginning of the 14th century, Europeans made few advances in science and art. All right. So now I want to go to, let me see. I thought I had Revelation, the 13th chapter. Let me see. Revelation 13, verse 1. And it says, "And I stood upon the sand of the sea," which the sea represents peoples, multitudes, and tongues. Going to Revelation, the 17th chapter. "And I saw a beast rise up out of the sea." All right, that's talking about NATO and the EU, having 7 heads and 10 horns. And the 7 heads represent the 7 major strongholds or empires of Esau Edom, starting with the Greeks, the Romans, Germany Major, Germany Minor, what else? The French, the Spanish, and Britain. Let me see. Let me double check. Greeks, Romans, Germany Major, Germany Minor, French, Spanish, Britain. All right. And the 10 horns represents, we already covered that in Daniel the 7th chapter, that represents the EU, the European Union. All right. Back then, they were known as the vassal states of Rome. Okay. And it says, "And upon his horns 10 crowns, and upon his head the name of blasphemy. And the beast which I saw was like unto a leopard." All right, we covered that. Well, we covered part of it. You know, it represents the Greeks and Alexander the Greek. Okay. "And his feet were as the feet of a bear," talking about the Romans, because the Romans, they're going to be one of the main nations that takes down Babylon the Great. Okay. Russians is also known as the Medes, Gog and Magog. All right, you go into Ezekiel the 38th chapter. All right, this place Babylon the Great going to be destroyed by nuclear fire. Okay. "And his mouth as the mouth of a lion," talking about Great Britain. Okay. "And the dragon gave him his power and his seat and great authority." Now here's the point. "And I saw one of his heads as it were wounded to death." All right, and this is talking about the Roman Empire. All right, the ancient Roman Empire fell. All right, but it's going to continue. "And his deadly wound was healed. And all the world wondered after the beast." And why did the world wonder after the beast? Because after that 1,000-year period where Esau wasn't able to deceive the nations, when he was loosed, he regained that power to deceive the nations again. So that's why the world wondered after the beast. Going into the next precept, this is Revelation 20, and as you see, it says Satan bound, and it says, "And I saw an angel come down from heaven, having the key of the bottomless pit." All right, the bottomless pit represents Europe, and the key. What do you do with a key? You either unlock something or you lock it. All right, and it says, "And a great chain in his hand." All right, let's go on that word chain real quick. Okay.
Strong's G 254. Hallucis. Hallucis. Thayer's
Hallucis.
Lexicon. Hallucis. Hallucis.
Okay. It says a chain, bond by which the body or any part of it, hands, feet, is bound. All right. Another word is fasten, lock, so on and so forth. All right. "And he laid hold on the dragon, that old serpent, which is the devil and Satan, and bound him 1,000 years." Okay. This is talking about Esau, Edom, the so-called white man. All right. Being bound, being fastened and locked for a certain period of time. Okay. Dating back to the fall of the ancient Roman Empire, around 325 AD to about 13, 25, 50, around that time. Okay. And it says, and he laid hold on the Salaki, I read that already, and cast him into the bottomless pit and shut him up and set a seal upon him. All right. And I found what was interesting, back in verse 1, I went into the definition of key, and if you go into the root of it, it shows shut him up. All right. So in other words, key and shut him up are synonymous in a way. And it says, and set a seal upon him that he should not deceive the nations no more. And that's exactly what happened within that 1,000 year period when Jake was ruling. All right. He wasn't able to deceive. He wasn't able to deceive the nations. Okay. But this is what it says. Till the 1,000 years should be fulfilled. And after that, he must be loose a little season. All right. And Esau Edom, the so-called white man, is loose right now. All right. And as I was reading, that word deceive, I was just thinking about the MOTB. All right. That's going to be one of the greatest deceptions of all time. This this devil, when the Lord lets Esau loose, really loose, man, Esau's going to deceive the whole world into taking the MOTB, Revelation 13 and 16, which is a future prophecy, which is an actual physical mark that Esau's going to deceive the whole world into taking, because if you don't take it, you're not going to be able to buy or sell or be able to eat. You ain't going to be able to travel. You're not going to be able to have basically the same rights as a regular citizen. You just going to be the outcast, basically. All right. But that's another topic for another day. Verse 7, and when the 1,000 years are expired, Satan shall be loosed out of his prison and shall go out to deceive the nations which are in the four quarters of the earth, Gog and Magog, to gather them together to battle, the number of whom is as the sand of the sea. And that was the very first thing that Esau did once he was loose from that prison sentence. He deceived the whole world. All right, by performing an act known as iconoclasm. All right, painting over the images and made the world thinking that he was a people of the Lord, and the Lord looked like a so-called white man, which that's why I wanted to get into the color scriptures. All right, let me see. Let me go back. Come on, man. Boy, I tell you, Salakia. Um, so anyway, as I was looking at this image right here, um, wanted to bring out a few precepts, because in the scriptures, it tells you how, the Most High looks, how the Son of the Most High looks. He doesn't look like a so-called white man. Okay, like look at this shit. Excuse my language, but like look at this, man. The Lord don't look like that. All right, going back to Daniel 7 and 9, it says, I beheld till the thrones were cast down, and the ancient of days did sit. And this is one of the titles of the Heavenly Father, which reigns in, which reigns in heaven. All right. The Lord is without end. All right. Whose garment was white as snow, and his hair of his head like the pure wool. Okay. Now let's go back to this image real quick. Now, does this figure right here in this picture show that he has white woolly hair? Or does he look like he has a white garment? It look like he has something else on, but he doesn't have white woolly hair, and you know, this ain't it. This ain't it. But you know, a so-called black man has white, has woolly hair. Okay, not no damn cracker. Excuse my French and language, but I hate these Edomites, man. You know, but they don't have no white woolly hair, man. Okay. Um, Back in Daniel 7 and 9, I beheld till the thrones were cast down, and the Ancient of Days did sit, whose garment was white as snow, and the hair of his head like the pure wool. His throne was like the fiery flame, and his wheels as burning fire. Okay. Going into the description of Yahweh man, which is a so-called black man, as well as the son of the Most High. We're going to get it. Revelation 1:1, then I'm going to jump down. The revelation of Yahweh Shai HaMashiach, which the Lord gave unto him to shew unto his servants things which must shortly come to pass. And he sent and signified it by his angel unto his servant John. Okay. And this is talking about John, who was on the Isle of Patmos that received a vision. Okay. Verse 12, and I turned to see the voice that spake with me, and being turned, I saw 7 golden candlesticks. And in the midst of the 7 candlesticks, one like unto the Son of Man, clothed with a garment down to the foot, and girt about the paps with a golden girdle. His head and his hairs were white like wool. Then we just read in Daniel the 7th chapter, where it was describing the Most High and what type of hair and what he looked like. Well, it's saying the same thing. Yahweh Shai has white woolly hair, as white as snow, and his eyes were as a flame of fire, and his feet like unto fine brass. All right, so let's get the color of brass real quick, which I already got it queued up. That's the color of brass right there. Okay, does that look white to you? That looks like a brown to me. All right, that's the color of brass. All right, just to show that real quick. Um, Let me see. And his feet like unto fine brass. So in other words, the Lord is a so-called black man. Okay? The Heavenly Father is a so-called black man. All right, he doesn't look. Let me go to this image one more time. He doesn't look like that. All right? That's Salakia. Doesn't look like that at all. Okay? Fucking devils. All right? And his feet like unto fine brass, as if they burn in a furnace. I mean, come on, man. That's plain. And his voice as the sound of many waters. Okay? Just let me see. That's pretty much all I got. This is another Renaissance article. We pretty much went into what Renaissance means. It means rebirth, and the simple fact that we're in the second leg of the Roman Empire, and that daily wound being healed, and that was just what was in my spirit. What I've been meditating on lately. But your brothers, and a few sisters pretty much get the point. I hope your brothers and few sisters were edified. And in closing, I want to say, Kohalayim La, Yahweh, Bahashim Yahweh Shai, Bahashim Rakakradash. Double honors to the apostles and elders of Great Millstone. Peace and salutations to the Aki and Wakwaf that scattered abroad the four corners of the earth. And shalom to the hopeful elect. Shalom.